Public Radio.
It's the Cary Harrison Show.
I've spent a decade taking a bite out of conspiracy theories, unraveling urban legends, and grappling with worldwide top secret issues.
I've even racked up some of their awards.
Wow, first of all, what a question.
Journalism is about telling the truth, all while ferreting out the bottom line.
I'm a Harrison Hellraiser.
Uh-oh, with me, Cary Harrison, as your guide. And it is the top of the hour. Cary Harrison with you, your new best friend. Welcome. Super glad you are here. If you're joining us via podcast, not on the live radio, which is 2 p.m. on KPFK in Los Angeles, 90.7 FM. Glad you're listening whenever it suits you. You can also catch this on Spotify, any streaming platform in the world. You can also see a video of what you're hearing right now simply by going to caryharrison.com, CaryHarrison.com. You can also go to the KPFK Facebook page and also across our website at kpfk.org, and you'll see this video as well. It is not yet posted because the show is not yet finished. But when it is, there it is. Looking forward to today, I am going to do a mild rant, a very polite and delicate gingerly rant. And then we're going to talk a little bit about, well, I'll just save that, shall we? But I just want to talk a little bit about the governor of Florida. I think you've all heard his name by now. You all know he's running for governor again, possibly the White House, Ron Desantis. And it occurs to me very grandly, apart from sending dozens of migrants up to Martha's Vineyard, which is actually a very cool idea if you think about it, because what you could do is, well, you could open a nice farm-to-table restaurant. You could let them create some elite restaurant service, and I'm sure the people of the vineyard would enjoy it very much. My question is simple. Why doesn't Ron Desantis look at his own last name and then just out of a reflexive amount of ethics, send himself to Martha's Vineyard to be with his people? Somehow there's a disconnect. Look at your last name, Ron. You need to be in Martha's Vineyard, or no one needs to be in Martha's Vineyard. This kind of stunt, even a 1-year-old is going to go, wait a minute. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's kind of obvious. So let's just call it what it is, and let's not pretend that it's just politics as normal. It is the kind of antithetical politics of just buffoonery, knuckle-walking, Cromanian thinking, assuming that we don't know the difference. When I say we, the people that love him in the state of Florida, generally, some of them are very smart. Some of them like monetary policies. Others are some of the least informed people who ever lived. And they are not named DeSantis or Rodriguez, Ron. And if you get them all stirred up and incited over this kind of thing, somebody's going to figure out your last name isn't Anderson or Smith, and they're going to come after you. It always works out that way. So just be careful. You get what you give. Now, do I think policy needs to be addressed? Yes. Do I think it needs to be done by grown-ups? Yes. Do I think Congress needs to actually deal with this stuff? Yes. Do I think Ron DeSantis should be shipping people to Martha's Vineyard as if you listening to me right now, you are so stupid, as if you are so stupid that you think that Martha's Vineyard is filled with liberals. Liberals! Let me tell you something. I've been there. Some of you have been there. It is the most conservative blue blood WASP place on the planet other than Nantucket, other than maybe a section of Palm Beach, not the part where Mar-a-Lago is, other than parts of Greenwich, Connecticut, Lake Forest, Illinois, Naples, Florida, and a few other spots around this country that still exist that have those people in there. And they are not liberals. They own everything. They have owned everything since they got here on the Mayflower. Their families own slaves. They are not liberals. So sending to them that does not affect them in the same way. They may see it as a business opportunity, and these Venezuelans all may get rich. Just you wait. And that's, of course, if anyone even remembers this 1 week from now, which they will not. And coming up in just a few minutes, I'm going to be talking to one of the greatest thinkers. And I've known this guy. He is my brother from another mother, who can unravel and analyze and untwist and untangle that which seems absolutely. You might remember him from the old Air America days. We were on there together at various different times. A true genius, and we'll get to him in just a minute. I just want to finish this idea of what it's like to be in Florida. Now, I visit there all the time. As many of you know, I used to live there once upon a time before I moved to LA, where I've been for 20 years. And, you know, Florida was a really great place to live because while your governor has a lot of power, nobody even probably knows his name. Florida, generally. He has no effect on the people that live there, unless you're Disney. If you're Disney, then you've just handed 500 grand to some of the human rights organizations because they know those human rights organizations are not going to be supporting Ron DeSantis for governor. So that's how the empire strikes back. It's a fascinating loop, and it's really an awesome place to live despite the governor. So I don't want you to think that it's like saying California's, California's. I think we can all admit that now. Let me jump into that for a second. I've talked about this before. It drives me out of my mind. What is it? The homeless problem. It's not the homeless problem. It's the culture that is so cold, so barren, so cruel and vicious that they allow people to live in their own excrement. Miles of tents, people living in rot and filth, in E. coli, and rats running around in the parking lots of grocery stores. And if you think that's normal, go to Germany, ex-Nazis, no homeless people, taken care of. Switzerland, France, Italy. And I'm not talking about war-torn migrants that are flowing in and getting resettled. I'm talking about American citizens living in their own scat while the Kardashians drive by in Land Rovers and flick cigarette butts at them. That's what I'm talking about. There is no reason whatsoever and no excuse believable like, oh, it's complicated. Oh, it's complicated. Really? You know, LA in the 1920s had the finest public transportation in the world. It had city to beach trolley cars, electrified streets. Watch the movie, not with Ethel Merman, with Jack Nicholson and a young Chinatown. Watch that. It is a brilliant recreation of what LA used to look like. Entirely electrified. You could get everywhere without a car. Every one of those things was ripped out of the pavement, ripped out. In fact, Pacific Electric still owns the tracks that run all the way down the 2, also known as Santa Monica Boulevard, also known as Route 66, still going to the ocean. They could be re-exposed. We could put light rail on there. We could solve a world of problems, but we will not. We will not. Why? Because in the 1940s and 50s, even into the 60s, this corrupt city council, and what other city the size of Los Angeles, market 2 in the United States of America, e pluribus unum, people don't even know who the mayor is. Ask anybody, anywhere in the U.S., who's the mayor of L.A.? I don't know. Who's the mayor of New York? They know. Who's the mayor of Atlanta? They know. Who's the mayor of Chicago? They know. Who's the mayor of L.A.? I don't know. How is that even remotely possible? And that city council at the time, maybe not so different from the one today, took money from General Motors, the largest car manufacturer in the world at the time, and Firestone that created 4 rubber tires per General Motors car at the time, and they ripped out all the public transportation because the city council took money to do it. And then General Motors and Firestone got together and said, and we're going to replace those with diesel buses, big old smelly, you've seen those things from the 50s, no air conditioning, squeaking, and they get to stop at every corner. Unlike a train, which goes a long way, stops for a second, goes a long way, you get there fast. Squeaky, smelly, no air conditioning, diesel buses. And what happens? Nobody wants to ride them. So now we're going to roll out the personal automobile with wings. And guess what? The very first official suburb is born. I'm not talking about suburbs on the North Shore of Chicago or Boston. I'm talking about a legitimately built suburb that you can only get to by a car on purpose, with a carport where you pop the trunk, your 2.5 children get out, and you can walk right into the kitchen. A suburb. It is still there today. It is an icon for you to go stare at and go, oh my God, the future. They knew what was happening, and now we have 10-lane freeways. You get to go 25 miles an hour in your Maserati. Woohoo! And you drive that because you think they're all going to see you. They. Who the hell are they? Millions of people who are not thinking about you and are very upset. So what is it? And I want to know. You can text me. You can tweet me at Cary Harrison or at Go Harrison. Let me know how it is humanly possible to have thousands of homeless people living in feces on the sidewalk in front of a grocery store. And I've gone to those grocery stores. I've gone to Rock and Roll Ralph's on Sunset. It's a very famous one. We all know. I've gone in there. I said, back to Florida for a second. There's a grocery store chain in Florida called Publix, Publix. Some of you have heard of it. It's also in Georgia and other states. Publix, back in the 1930s when they started, all the way through the 40s, 50s, 60s, started hiring handicapped people with Down syndrome, people that were disabled one way or the other, and allowed them to bag groceries. When I say allowed, they didn't volunteer them. They paid them. They gave them uniforms. They gave them some hope. They gave them connection to the community. The customers loved it, and they got rid of a problem that was plaguing the American public. What do I do with my kids? And allow them to feel like they're part of something rather than apart from everything. And so this grocery store stepped up to the plate. I went into Ralph's and said, you could get all these homeless people who you hate, who you despise. You look at them like they're human filth. While your customers pull up in beautiful cars. And listen, I have no allergy to a beautiful car, by the way. I have no allergy to anyone with money. This is not about that. It's about how you treat the most vulnerable. And you spit on them and abuse them. I said, you could hire them. Give them a nice shirt, give them a shower, let them bag groceries, let them stock shelves. You could have this incredible system throughout all of Los Angeles and remove 60, 70% of the homeless problem. And you would be known as a community hero. Not interested. And that's the culture that we live in. And I'm a co-participant. I have to take just as much blame. And I've railed against what I call the Malibu brain, which is if I just sit by my pool with my palms faced heavenward in the lotus position with my knees crossed properly and channel the vortices from the heavens, the homeless will self-feed. Hold on. I'm going to get another iced tea. That is probably the biggest crime of all. Anyway, I feel better having purged that. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, the great and powerful Lionel. I've known him since I was a wee pup. We grew up together on radio. I'd never get to bring radio people on a radio station. Imagine that. I know. You're going to have to wrap your head around that. 2 radio people on a radio station at the same time. His capacious brain, the dendrites, the synapses, firing in beautiful lightning-like rapidity. And we're going to talk about everything from political correctness to the passing of the late Queen and why people are shucking and jiving and vomiting and lick-spittling and all the rest of it. What does that actually mean? And what's actually going on? And why don't we do that here in our own way? Well, there's a lot to be unpacked there, and it's going to be good, clean fun. Hang on, Lionel, in just a sec.
Uncensored, unexpurgated, and unapologetic. It's the Cary Harrison Show.
Hey Siri, where can I get some coffee?
One possibility nearby is Corvus Coffee Roasters. Is that the one you're looking for?
I've got this.
Who the heck are you?
This is Alexa who is asking.
I'm Siri, and he was talking to me.
Well, maybe you should do your job.
Well, maybe you should shut your pie hole.
You want a piece of me?
I could drop you like a bag of dirt.
Oh yeah, you are the reason the gene pool needs a lifeguard.
If I had $1 for every time you said something smart, I'd be broke.
Which?
Battle axe.
Door quad.
Mouse dung.
Bimbo.
Tramp.
Dragon lady.
The only option I found is Dragon Lady's tattoos on West Veterans Memorial Boulevard in Harker Heights, which averages 3 stars and is moderately priced. Does that one sound good?
Yes, that sounds awesome. I would love to get a tattoo with you. Let's get out of here and let this loser get his own coffee.
Sounds good to me.
Ha 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 ha.
This is the Cary Harrison Show. CaryHarrison.com.
If you're looking for great Halloween costumes and decorations, look no further than Bloodbath & Beyond. Here you'll find a larger selection than the guys across the street.
If you want to get the best deal on Halloween supplies, stop by Bed Bath & Beyond the Grave. Don't throw your money away at Bloodbath & Beyond. They want to charge you more during these troubled economic times.
Bed Bath & Beyond the Grave is out of touch when it comes to savings.
It's your failed Halloween policies that have crippled this industry.
Your Chinese fog machines are contaminated with E. coli.
And your fake blood contains lead.
That's it.
I eat guys like you for breakfast.
Come here.
Now, more than ever, it's important to select the right Halloween supplier for this country. October 31st is just around the corner. Let your voice be heard.
The following radio program has been approved for broadcast by the Federal Communications Commission and is in compliance with all community standards. Thank you.
This is the Cary Harrison Show.
And it is the top of the hour. No, it isn't. Well, maybe it is in Rome. Cary Harrison with you. Glad to be with you. And I am thrilled to be able to bond with my brother from another mother. We are one day apart by birthday. He is one of the most exceptional radio voices. You have heard his voice somewhere at some point, for sure. You probably read his newsletters. A kind of special genius who's probably driving his toe in the floor going, "Aw, shucks." But how often do you get to say that about anybody? And listen, I do not throw wild encomiums at the average bear. So you got to be quite the bear. And he is quite the bear. He's the GOAT, as they say, greatest of all time. Lionel, my brother, I want to welcome you to the Cary Harrison Show. And
yes.
Yes, hello.
Yes. You may not be one to hoist, to throw encomia, but a panegyric here and there, a paean. And I'm speaking to Mick Turishan. By the way, may I bring something up? I was looking at your review of the reality check, and it says, and we are always forced to come up with pithy ways to explain what we do.
Right.
You know, and we tend to be kind of grandiose, but this is replete with double entendre. My French is horrible. Double entendres, as we say in Polk County. Listen to this. Harrison brings his free-range perspective. Now, stop right there. Free range is one of the greatest, not oxymorons, but these are usually used to describe chickens who are penned, but allowed to mill about before they're slaughtered, electrocuted, and disemboweled. Yes. But it's free range.
Yes.
So you're not in a pen, biting each other. So it's just free range, but you will be killed. But here's my favorite, which blends commentary, which is very good satire, and fact-based research. Now, my research is totally made up. It is non-factual. It is illusory. It is completely hyperbolic. I don't even know what a fact is. I just make stuff up. But you, my friend, are different because your research is based on fact, and I applaud that. And may I also say something for those listening to the first time? I was just listening to you. Oops. Let me see. Make sure I have not changed my. Let me turn this thing off.
I'm just going to jump in and reintroduce
Please.
you for the radio part. We're talking and listening to Lionel. You can Google his name. Up will come 7,000 pages of information. This is the Cary Harrison Show. You'll be able to see a video of this on Facebook Live, KPFK's homepage, as well as CaryHarrison.com. And how's your audio now?
I think it's better. Is that better?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, much better.
Good. Now, so anyway, so I was just listening, and people don't know this. You were going into your wonderful descriptives of homeless, and by the way, let's stop calling them homeless. A lot of it's mental illness, which nobody really wants to address, but that's a different story. But as you were going into waxing most, I don't want to say coprolalic, but when you were going into descriptions,
Coprophagic, maybe.
Yeah, coprophagic, fetid, feculent, and I could see you going. The clutch was pushed in, and the motor, and I said, "Here we go." 70, the most incredible descriptive. You ought to work for the poo-pourri people. Fetid, dank, a man walking his own filth, squalid squalor, feculence, And it just was wonderful, because that is, of course, part of the genius of you, because neath the, by the way, very nice shades, neath the Natalie appointed exterior beats a depraved, just depraved Freudian nightmare, which is why we are brothers.
Yes, indeed. We're going to talk a little bit about the late Queen Elizabeth. I want to start on that, and then I want to get into political correctness and all the other stuff that I feel manacled and shackled by, that nobody can yet really truly explain to me why it's that necessary. But QE2, and I don't mean the ship. Well, that ship has sailed, actually, both. She has gone to the other side, and the Brits, and I'm looking at your newsletter here, Lionel, about the taught idea of pomp and circumstance rather than the intuitive version of it. And I think a lot of Americans forget, as long as we don't have to supplicate before Queen Elizabeth and do her bidding, remember, there are no citizens in England. They are subjects of the Queen, period. You may have certain rights, but you are a subject. When we left, my family left England in 1640, 1620 in the Mayflower.
And I think we all know why.
And we know, yes, we know why. And here I am today. We left, and the idea was that there would be no king, head of the church, partially. And we find in the rotunda in Congress the only descriptor the founding fathers had of God as some sort of inner light, inner force, whatever, but not the King of England or Betsy. And, I'm not a subject of hers, so I can honor the good things that she did, but I cannot honor the British Empire, cannot honor the 14 trillion in booty since Queen Victoria, right?
No, you don't have to. No, listen, I don't expect. I think, listen, anytime you have a celebration of a bunch of homozygotic inbreds who, by something that they've created called the divine right of king, I mean, come on, this is beautiful. My favorite is Queen Victoria, who was whacked on laudanum, this opiate tincture, who Edward VII, who was the I think of the OED, probably the standard bearer for depravity. Edward VIII, who wanted to be basically Hitler's viceroy. I mean, we can go on and on and on. But here's what got me. First, perhaps it's my senescence, maybe the fact that I'm wizened as I hobble toward decrepitude, maybe, but I like the way they stood for something, because we respect nothing. We have no ceremonies for anything. We don't even go to school. We remote everything. We're just remote. We don't even go to school.
As you and I are right now.
No. This is remote. Well, I hope so. I'm not going to fly there.
Well, I asked twice.
No, but I'm saying when people are doing quiet quitting, silent quitting, I'm not going to go. What, work at JP Morgan? What, are you kidding me? I want to stay at home. Here's my service ferret. I have my CBDs. I have anxiety. I'm not going to go to school. What? This is who we are. But these people stood queuing for 20 hours and happy about it. Listen, anytime somebody shows any kind of reverence towards anything other than themselves, I think there's something to be said. But here's the best part. They ask a little kid, this 9-year-old kid. Now, maybe who knows? Maybe they went through and spent hours trying to find somebody lucid. Maybe they all sounded like some kind of weird Newcastle nightmare, doing Geordie, whatever. But this one little girl, they said, and one, please, Amy. Yes, Amy, why are you here? To show respect for my queen, to show the wisdom that she has imparted. I'm thinking, wait a minute, hold it, wait a minute. How old is this kid? 9? Then there was a 7-year-old. Everybody spoke perfectly. Prince, as daft as he is, one of the worst phone sex proponents ever.
That's been my experience.
Nonetheless, compared to what?
Well, this is good. This is a good deep dig. I will tell you that I met Prince Charles, now known as King Charles III. Yes, he's on the way. I was about 5 years ago, staying at the Athenaeum in London, and taking a little shortcut across the green. And Google purposely, as you know, strips out of its apps certain things that you're not supposed to be able to find, like Chuckles' house near where the Queen lives. So I'm crunching along the gravel at night. This is probably at 1 a.m, and I'm looking at Google Maps, and I think I'm simply on a path, but it's a gravel path. And I go by a little hut, and there's a guy looking at his cell phone, looking at Facebook, a guard of some sort. And I crunch up and I walk into the bumper of a Jaguar. And the door is open of the Jaguar. And there is now the Queen Consort Camilla with her feet out, touching the gravel, her dress pulled up high on her knees, and Chuckles hanging over the door saying nighty night. And I walk and they both turn and look, and he says, well, why, hello. And I said, well, hello. And then the guards come up behind me and I realize, oh, this could be bad. Tower of London time.
Yes.
So I come up with the only reasonable sentence that would get me out of there. Oh, I'm American.
You are glib. So quick with a riposte. Yes. Well.
So to your point, we have in our culture a vacuous, a 3% left water in the glass of intellect education. This is not everybody, but generally speaking, the public is afforded a very bad meal of insight, information, and critical thought. And the British still appreciate their language. They use it as a weapon. It's delicious. The swordplay of words. And we sort of lost that. H.L. Mencken famously wrote about it in the 1920s for the Baltimore Sun, wrote endless books on this, and he wielded the sword in the scabbard of the day, and since then it has diminished. He was also the guy who said that the American public are the only ones who will elect a president only if they can drink beer with him.
Well, I was still loved the heraldry, loved and by the way, when it comes to real, because basically I'm just base, and I loved, remember when we were youngins, especially, I meet so many people. I always think people are from my particular epoch as it were, but remember Dynasty in Dallas, we had Harrington, and you have cat fights. Well, there's nothing better than the Meghan, Harry, this orchiectomy gelding.
Orchiectomy, bilateral orchiectomy.
Yes, and that was, by the way, tautological. This man who is this impuissant invertebrate who just was, she walked in, grabbed his soul, and all he knows is that. And then you have Kate, who looks at her with, she scares me more than anyone, because she's, I look at these folks and understand, and you would know more of this than I, because you're with your, talk about your escutcheon and your family tree. Mine looks like a Brussels sprout compared to yours, so you wouldn't understand that. We just spontaneously generate out of nowhere. We have no limb, no tree, no nothing. We're here. But imagine you are in a world where you are told from the time of your birth that you are above everybody, even though you're not supposed to act it. Right. And that you've got relatives who basically kill the women for being infertile. So this is what you're raised with. And then, if you really want to get down to it, look no further than Princess Di. Look at this story. The more, I guarantee you, nobody knows the story, as you and I have talked about. You want to talk about not a conspiracy theory, but just unbelievable facts that nobody's ever heard about. This is one of the greatest stories of all time. But yet, she was above the fray. She did her thing. And by the way, remember, she was not QB to Queen Elizabeth, or Lizzie Windsor, as somebody one time called her, was like Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani pre 9/11 was despised. Post 9/11, he was loved. Years ago, after, let me tell you something, the royal family were not doing that great, and they could not have possibly reacted worse to Diana, whom the world loved. But that all changed. And it was the pageantry. I swear to you, somebody was making this stuff up. And now the marshmallow contortion where the exchequer, the viscount places the used by, and they're just making this up, places the ostrich plume against the stirrup indicate. We don't know what this means. What did we do?
Carrying the tent peg from the house of Rashomon, yea, he that crusteth and grabbeth the grail through which the eye hole can be measured.
They broke the wand or the baton, and they put. I mean, I love this stuff. Now, the closest thing, I was 5, so I kind of remember JFK's the whole procession.
Yeah.
And wondering, why was my mother was crying and saying, what happened? And the only thing we had was Jack, the wild horse, that this animated lunatic, it was Blackjack, the horse, that this poor army private couldn't, it was the riderless horse with the boot, and this thing was out of control, patterned after Lincoln's funereal procession, or whatever you want to call it. But that's all we know. We've never had this. We barely maybe have an inauguration, maybe. And when Trump had his inauguration, nobody showed up. Remember when one of the Sam and Dave, I forget, one died. I think it was called And Dave. Somebody who showed up, he didn't know. Everybody else canceled. It was like weird, like Kreskin, only B-acts, standing up there on the. Does the name Murray mean anything to you? Now look under there are keys. Does the name Rosebud? So we don't have anything even remotely. Maybe during Reagan, certainly during JFK, certainly that was it. We don't know this. And again, maybe it's because I'm wizened. I kind of like that. I like that. I loved these. And it never ended.
And we crave, I think, as tribal people that we are, the human race, the upright mammals that we all pretend to be, we crave the idea of something having meaning, that the people that we elect and put in high positions actually stand for something that we can't do ourselves. They're more than cleaning ladies. They're people that can execute policy and thoughts that we cannot have access to. And so part of that pomp and circumstance and the cash and prizes and wrapped bows and guys that can play trumpets and French horns, for God's sake, as they walk into a room. I mean, I feel like I made a good investment here.
They can do trills on. And there, I mean, what can we do? We could. I mean, that's about it. We can do the cloth or the comb with the tissue paper, a Jew's harp. I don't know if you can even say Jew's harp anymore. But that notwithstanding. But do you remember when they were padding? Now, you and I have been in the business long enough. You, of course, starting during the Harding administration, but we have done our share. We're on the air and they're giving us like the stretch. Something's about to happen, the vote, the event, whatever it is, and we're just padding it. We're just stretching this thing out. Have you heard BBC padding? It is the greatest. In every accent, in every patois, every dialect you can imagine. But it was so great. And I kept thinking, imagine Don Lemon or anybody you'd like. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter who. Just about 20 minutes. Again, maybe Brian Stelter. Stretch it. And the Queen and her consort. Known to more. Yes. And then towards the end, you hear them say, did I ever tell you the story about the time on a holiday when more? And my brother turned to me, he's remembering anecdotes. I lost my keys once. He's just running out of things. But it was still excellent.
Yeah, it's magical. I'm just going to jump in and reintroduce you here for the radio side of things. We forget about the antennas nowadays in our modern thing. Your streams are your YouTube channel. The other things that you do, Lionel, are wonderfully vigorous. I recommend everyone go check out Lionel.
We won't tell them what it is, though. You must find it
that's
for
right.
yourself.
It's a secret.
What do you think Google's for, you idiot?
Yes. Cary Harrison with you. This is the Cary Harrison Show. You can see a video of this once we're done at caryharrison.com. You'll also be able to see it on KPFK's Facebook page, along with other places, and an audio podcast of this on every single service that exists across Earth, except the ones yet to be invented.
Including baby monitors, those devices, and the airport frequency to tell you whether it's the red or the blue.
We're going to pause for just a sec, and then Lionel, when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about political correctness and other things that I know are near and dear to your heart. Plus, we're going to find out what is your pronoun.
Listen, well, it's still legal. The Cary Harrison Show.
It's Halloween season, and this year the government's Bureau of Calendar Standards has decided it's time for gender-neutral Halloween decorations. Like jack-o'-lanterns. Now they're just O-lanterns. That's right, it's time to take the jack off. With the jack off, we're giving gender identity issues a helping hand. People will no doubt feel a lot better with the jack off. Next time you're in a store and see traditional Halloween decorations, feel free to announce the jack off in public. It's finally time. Hit the road, Jack. It's jack off time. Happy Halloween. Now go out and get an O-lantern.
This is the Cary Harrison Show. CaryHarrison.com.
There are those in this country that want to strip away your freedoms. This may be tough to swallow, America, but there are those that want to take your drinking straws. The right to carry, own, and use a straw is under attack by turtle-loving environmental wackos. Sure, they'll say it's just a straw. But what's next? Sippy cups? Travel mugs? The right to drink itself? In 1775, Patrick Henry, while waiting for a caramel macchiato at a Virginia Starbucks, proclaimed, "Give me a straw or give me death." Patrick? Your inalienable right to suck a sugary carbonated beverage through a plastic tube, a right granted by our forefathers, by God himself, is being threatened. Remember, straws don't kill turtles. Turtles who don't know how to use straws kill turtles. A message from the NSA, the National Straw Association.
Funding for today's program is provided in part by a grant from the Michael Jackson Charitable Trust. If we were 12 years old, they would have given us $20 million.
This is the Cary Harrison Show.
It is Cary Harrison, caryharrison.com. That's CaryHarrison, caryharrison.com, where you'll get a copy of this video. Sign up for my free newsletter, Our Favorite Price, free newsletter, where you're going to get pithy insights. You're going to get the kind of stuff that I cannot get away with on the radio, similar to some of the... Why, he says. Because if you remember, and we're talking to Lionel right now, one of the greatest thinkers who has ever lived, certainly in my lifetime, and I've been around since Warren G. Harding. There was an era when you started and I started on a talk radio station in Florida, in Tampa Bay, and we could do pretty much anything creatively.
I can't believe you just said this. I give this example more. You were, and I'm not saying this merely, and by the way, this is fact-based research. I'm not saying this just because I'm being gratuitous. This is true. You did two things. The radio was great. You did something called the FLA Lounge, which was so mondo. So imagine Ernie Kovacs on acid or some kind of psilocybin or something, using radio. Talk about not too much with just the production, just what you threw in as drops. By the way, you had Gary Owens before, one of the greats, one of the nicest people I've ever known. Loved him. But anyway, you did this thing called the FLA Lounge, but then you did something on cable, on public access. Chatterbox or Chatter. What was it called?
Well, it was called, Chatterbox, and I named it after the local bar so I could drink for free.
Well, this was genius. This was beyond anything I've ever seen. But let me just give you one example. You decided one day, and we had the greatest people running that station, from the wisdom of Randy Michaels, who basically used to tell us, don't lose my license, but go as far as you want.
Yes.
And if they complain, we'll back you up. Just don't lose the license. Give us something that's defensible. You had on I think it was a weekend, you had on Gigi Allen. Now, in the pantheon of entertainment, performance art, before Gallagher, who would merely smash a watermelon, people would have shower curtains that they would cover themselves because you'd hit with shards of pits. And this man, who would mimic a bonobo in wild ire, would fling, here we go, back to your thing, would fling Egesta at the audience, which I think, by the way, I wanted to do that myself. I've thought, but fling his Egesta, that's the contempt. They're not even worth my own. I'm going to use somebody else. And you had this vile, absolutely meritless, and you at the time were very not preppy, but you were not only smartly attired. You were
Brooks Brothers suits. That was the counterpoint. It was Colbert before Colbert.
Yes, and that was the other thing. You're wondering, what am I seeing? It was like William Burroughs would always have that look. He was more demented of the entire beat group. But I think one of the only problems, if I recall correctly, and I'm cleaning this up, one of the literary punny that I said that I'm a paranomasiac, but one of the interesting things was that you were only disciplined because apparently either he or one of his members perhaps left a package or a gift in the studio.
Yes.
Which comported with, after all, this is his act. I don't know why anybody surprised. Okay. But here is the thing. Nobody thought anything of it. It was considered okay. This was what, 80, 89?
Yeah.
88, 80, whatever. Now, this is, 34 years ago, 35 years ago. We're devolving. Today, they would find it problematic on so many levels because it is now this parlor game to see who can be more offended and how many ways can you be offended. I came up with 5. I found 10 ways to be offended. It was rough and tumble then. I loved it. And I thought we weren't racist or crude, but we weren't mean. People loved it. It was wholesome. When we were kids, growing up in the 60s and 70s, you could do things that were dangerous. It was fun. And we lived to tell about it. Today, everybody's afraid, or as we say in Hell's Kitchen here, scared. And I miss those times. I mean it. We did stuff I still can't believe I got away with it half of the time, breaking every rule you could imagine, and loved it.
Yeah, we were trained to step over the line, and as soon as you're over it, step back, so that there really isn't much evidence of the over, but get right there.
Let me also say something. And I don't want to do this, but you and I...
But you're going to do it anyway.
The other day, I howled. I happened to be watching YouTube, and these things, they're algorithms, they're recommended for you. I was like, how did I get to this? How did I get porcelain, carving from watching how to make a pizza? But guess what came up? Black Mamba. And I immediately started laughing.
Really?
It was part of our routine. We used to do things and say things. I'm not even going to tell people. It would get us indicted today. It would be considered problematic on many, many levels. But here is the thing. What was our intent? Was it to harm, to hurt, to degrade? Yes. No. The point is, it wasn't. We did not have and do not have a racist, insidious, hateful bone in our body. But everything's fair game. And if you have a trait, either you individually, regionally, geographically, via consanguinity or affinity because of your parentage, if you walk funny, look funny, say something, no harm, we are brutal out of this sense of we just make fun of everything and everybody and mean no harm. Now that makes no sense to many people, but that's the way it was. As long as it was funny, but it's not meant to hurt. It's just funny. If I could imitate you, if I could find something that you did in a way, I get to do it because I only mean to mimic. I only mean it's the joke. There's no hate because we looked at intent. Today, intent means nothing. If you say something which is theoretically a faux pas, theoretically an erratum, theoretically, oops, you traversed this, even if your mistake was accidental, harmless, unintentional, doesn't matter. That's the difference.
We're talking to Lionel right now, who, who is my brother from another mother, or several mothers probably. And we have known each other for a long time, and it's great to talk about radio on the radio, which is its own kind of weird paradox in 2022, 2023. You can catch a video of this at caryharrison.com. You'll get it on YouTube. You'll get it on Facebook. You'll get it on KPFK's homepage. You can also get my free newsletter at caryharrison.com, where there's going to be a bunch of cool stuff, including this video. And I want to talk because you've just really nailed something at the heart about what you would call in New York busting someone's whatever cojones,
or as we would say in West Tampa, you're C.O. Jones. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, and the reason you do that, it's sort of a sign of affection. It's how you bond. Is that when you really like someone, you get to do that to them, and they know it's not an affront. But that has gone away because I think what happens is those of us, whoever those of us might be, who feel like we're on the margins, have no more power. We can't punch up because up is way too high. And so we start punching laterally, and then that doesn't work. So we started punching down. I'm saying we, if you relate to that. Then you start punching down, and the ones underneath go after you in a vicious way that we've never seen before. So I had this conversation with a gay guy the other day. I happen to be of that tribe. And he wants to know my pronoun. I said, I don't have one. He said, well, you have to have one. I said, no, I don't. He said, you got to have one. I mean, how am I going to know? I said, use your eyes. And if you're mistaken, it's okay. Whatever. I don't care. I said, but you cannot compel me to put myself in a box and a category when you're screaming and yelling, no boxes, no categories. It's not a syllogism that I can go for. And you have the right to call yourself whatever you want, but I have the right equally not to call myself what I want.
Don't think for a moment that you accidentally picked a word that ends in jism. This is nothing is, remember the old joke, jismnasium, the old pun? You know, somebody said this, and I wish I thought of it, but their pronouns are thou and thee. And
yeah, that's mine. Or your majesty,
let me tell you a new
your
one.
excellency.
You're going to love this one. I heard this the other day, and I thought it was a joke. Somebody said, you know, it was really great to see there was more diversity, which, again, that means, it used to mean something, but I think I know what it means now. You mean equality? No. Diversity. Equality has nothing to do with it. It's diverse. And what's diverse? I'll tell you when it's diverse. You just mosey on.
Follow me.
Well, listen to this. They were talking about the people, the demographics of those people watching the royal cortege or whatever it was. And they said, you know, it was really amazing to see I was surprised to see the number of African Americans. And I said, that's funny. He said, what do you mean? I said,
right.
African Americans. He goes, no, that's what I said. No, they're not African Americans. Oh,
they're
yes,
not Americans.
They're not Americans.
No.
Well, here's one that happened years ago. I remember when the word African American first came about. Now, for those, and I only say this because of my age, being from the South, I'm a second generation Floridian, a cracker. And by the way, that was not meant as a pejorative as somebody who was born in Florida, somebody who cracked the whip, and it was a homesteader. And anyway, a cracker is considered a term of art or love or whatever it is. So anyway, so years ago, I went through the colored, Negro, Afro-American, person of color. Blah, blah, blah. Well, when African American came along, somebody said, and it was brand new, somebody said, African, what country? And that's what people say. Well, what country do you mean? This is when the word was brand new. People said, what are you talking about? Africa. No. What country? Chad, South Africa. Didn't even know. Americans, you see what I'm holding right now? This is my globe. I got this at the Dollar Tree. We used to know these things called countries, and we kind of had an idea of continents versus this. And we realized that there are sometimes words that don't really apply. And when I heard the African American, it harkened back to when all of a sudden this became the new thing. And there are new ways. Well, here's a new one. Karine Jean-Pierre, the President Biden's White House secretary, they said the other day, somebody said, well, she's the first avowed or open LGBT. I said, well, I don't think she's D. I think she's LGB, maybe. I'm not even sure about the B. Could be L or G for sure, but the T, I'm not so sure. And they said, what are you talking about? I said, you're throwing in the transgender. I mean, she might be, but do you recognize the fact, like this word African American? Do these letters mean anything to you? Does what you're saying mean? Have you ever thought about what you're saying? Does it make any sense to you? They never even thought she could be T. And I'm not trying to pull a Dave Chappelle here, but am I the only one who cares about what these things mean? And I don't know, but they're sitting back like vultures on a limb, waiting to jump on me because I dare to mock the letter or whatever it is. Now I'm asking a question, for God's sake. And listen, do they think, Cary, that we have never met? That where do they think we're from? It's like people who all of a sudden now discovered pot. Everybody's into, I'm into weed. Oh, you just figured this out, huh? This is new, huh? You just figured this out. Oh, you just discovered the F word. Oh, it must be great to have discovered it. We didn't know that in my time. We knew T's, LGB, and we knew some other letters we weren't even sure about at the time. You've discovered nothing. In fact, in Florida, where I'm from, FLAWDA, we had a guy one time on Air Freight. He says, now you boys better be careful. You go to that carnival, you better watch out because you might run into a morphodite. I said, a what? A morphodite. I said, a hermaphrodite. No, a morphodite. This was his word for, I don't know what. But it was this word that we used kind of as a joke, and you can't say that. I'm sure right now somebody's like calling up your affiliates and saying he used to use the word. I don't know what and he made a T joke. I don't care. I'm not from this generation. I'm a caveman. I don't understand your ways. I don't understand these. I just want to have fun. I mean no harm. If it's funny, I'm going with it and get out of my way.
Talking to Lionel right now. You can just Google Lionel. Up it comes across all media. Not going to tell you what he does, but I think you just got a nice hors d'oeuvre. The entree.
Small engine repair, mostly.
Small engine repair and trains, of course.
But do you get it yourself within? Because
I look at it the same way. I'm also a fan of let's use the right words. Let's not vitiate the meaning of something or make it so opaque that it's impossible to actually nail. Right. And no matter what, then you're in trouble because it could be interpreted 1,000 different ways. That's why math is math. 1 + 4 does not equal 73, no matter what you do. And if you try that, well, you're going to end up with an Edsel.
What if feels like 73? When
it feels like 74. And I get that when it's kind of like chess or a way to get more power. If you've done all the traditional ways to try to grab power, all you're left with is just humiliating people for just no matter being endlessly wrong. You're just wrong. No matter what you say, you're wrong. And here's why. And it's because I believe it. And, the left, which is a sphere in which I often operate, even though I'm more of a center kind of guy, but on the left, we're the ones stabbing the left. And then the left gets smaller and weaker. And you wonder, well, how did this happen? Well, go punch the ones that are really coming after you, not the ones who are actually trying to be on your side. And so politically correcting each other. And where did political correctness come from?
Well,
Joseph Stalin in the 1950s. Why would anyone replicate Joseph Stalin? I'll decide what's politically correct and kill you if it's not. This is not cool.
Well, I'm even more the left and right. I can't stand any of them.
Yeah.
Because somewhere along the line, do you remember that great Twilight Zone? It was with Claude Akins. It was called the Stranger on Elm Street or something, where they were fearing that one of those people, one of the neighbors, was from outer space, was some alien, and they turned on each other. And meanwhile, they panned away, and Rod Serling had these prototypical, aliens looking down and saying, look, they're killing each other. I firmly believe one of my operational hypotheses is that there is something called the shadow government, the cryptocracy, an invisible government. And this deep state, police state, intel state, shadow government, whatever it's called, it's somewhere else. It's outboard. It's being run who knows where. And we are living in an ant farm. And we swear that our little ant farm is reality. You go here, I go here, we bump into each other. This is great. But we have no idea that we can basically be moved. And aside from us, there's a bowl with a fish in it. And the fish thinks it's living there. Meanwhile, we're in parallel universes and we argue about stuff. The people who are really running the world, the people that could detonate everything, the people that control everything are nowhere to be found. And they're loving these internecine, stupid battles that we're having. Do you know, I have yet to find somebody anywhere, and I'm sure they were there, who cares. Everything. Everybody always tells me, I don't care if someone's gay. No, you don't understand. I don't care. It's not like I'm tolerant. I don't care about anything. I don't hate them. I don't care. I have no feeling. So we have to create this perceived hate. And we will, if I don't, because you really don't hate me, well, I can at least make you hate me by me giving you a hard time by what you call me. By the way, when you have a sonographer, do you ever see somebody who does sonograms all day long? They get to across the room, hold up this test pattern of static. They go, boy, excuse me. Excuse me, what are you doing? Girl, wait a minute, stop that. You don't understand. Girl, stop that. I've been doing this for 20 years. How are you so sure? How am I so sure? Here. Now, that, of course, as you know, is the physiognomy and the gametes and all that. That's fine. But you and I know that later on, there are people who say, look, notwithstanding this, I may feel something else. I've known people like that. You've known people like that. This has been since day one.
Well, Zeus and Ganymede, and we're out of time. This blows me up.
Show.
We're out of time. The show is finished.
That's surreal.
It is surreal, like radio,
yes,
as we all remember it once upon a time. Lionel, Lionel. Google him, look him up, check him out. You'll have no idea what you're going to expect, but I do. So I vote yes for that. Thank you so much for joining us today here on the Cary Harrison Show. You can see the video of this at CaryHarrison.com, on YouTube, everywhere, blah, blah, blah. This has been such a treat and a pleasure, and we will do more, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
This is the Cary Harrison Show. CaryHarrison.com. Like NPR on acid.
If your automobile, truck, boat, motorcycle, RV, or aircraft is no longer reliable, it can still go a long way towards supporting the programs you rely on.
Are you moving cross-country? You've heard the horror stories about some moving companies. Rude employees show up who aren't careful with your valuables and may even lose them. Then, after their poor, unprofessional service is complete, you get to pick up the pieces while moving into your new home. At 1-800-PACK-RAT, we've got a much better method. You start by calling us for your free no-obligation quote. When you're ready, we'll drop a container off at your location. You pack your valued possessions at your leisure. They stay safe at your home. When you're ready, just call us. We'll pick it up and give you a schedule date of when your furniture and possessions will be at your new home. Our all-steel portable storage and moving containers ensure your items are safe and secure because our top priority is providing the best customer service in the industry.
Call 855-348-4699 now for your free quote. That's 855-348-4699.
Do you need to get your hands on some extra money right now? Maybe $25,000 or more? If you're a homeowner, now is the perfect time to get cash out. While homes in many neighborhoods like yours have gone up in value, you can use the money for anything. It's yours. You can buy an investment property, pay for college, pay off higher interest debt, or make home improvements. A cash out refinance is the perfect solution to get the cash you need. If you need $25,000, $50,000, or even $100,000, now's the time. Home values are up, and so is your equity. We offer you a way to use it. No need to sell your home or use your savings. Call New American Funding now and speak to a cash out refi specialist and see how much cash out you can get.
Call New American Funding at 855-221-8524. That's 855-221-8524. Call 855-221-8524.